The hooked alien research ship Varlin's eye drifted through the quiet black of space, silver hull reflecting the faint glow of distant stars. Inside, corridors hummed softly with the sound of machines and the faint scent of sterilized air filled every room in the biology lab. Dr. Zarkil, senior xenobiologist of the Varlin Science Guild, sat at his desk surrounded by glowing data screens. His long, scaled fingers tapped rapidly on the console as he scrolled through reports about the human crew members on board. Humans were still a mystery to him. They were fast, unpredictable, and strangely adaptable to almost any environment. But this new project was different. The Science Guild had asked him to document everything about human biology for the Interstellar Education Database. Today's subject was a young human engineer named Sarah Blake. She stepped into the lab. Wearing a standard blue jumpsuit, her hair tied back in a loose tail, she smiled politely. "You wanted to see me, Doctor?" Zarkil's large, golden eyes blinked twice. "Yes, I have several questions about your species. Reproductive cycle." Sarah raised an eyebrow. "All right, fire away." He adjusted the holoscreen to show a chart of various alien species. He said, pointing with a clawed finger, "is the mating cycle of the Trevaki once every 9 standard years. This is the mating season of the Lorawan only during the wet months of their homeworld. And this," he continued, "is the reproduction period of the Kivrin, exactly 3 days every solar rotation. Now, when is yours?" Sarah tilted her head. "Ours." "Yes," Zarkil said patiently. "When does your species' mating season begin?" She frowned, thinking for a second. Then she laughed. "We don't have one." Zarkil stared at her. "I'm sorry, what?" "We can have kids any time of the year," she said casually, as if it was the most normal thing in the world. "No special season." Zarkil's frilled crest twitched, a sure sign of disbelief among his kind. "That is impossible. All higher-order species have a regulated mating period to conserve energy and resources. Without one, your population would..." He trailed off, his mind struggling to process the idea. "You would overpopulate your world within a few cycles." Sarah shrugged. "We kind of did." Zarkil froze. His pupils narrowed into thin slits. "You did." Sarah grinned. "Billions of us, spread across the planet. Then we went to space." The alien scientist leaned back in his chair, his tail twitching. This was worse, or perhaps more fascinating than he imagined. "You are telling me," he said slowly, "that human males and females are fertile, constantly, without rest periods?" "Pretty much, yeah. Even during climate shifts, planetary changes, resource shortages." Sarah nodded. "Yep," Zarkil's crest flattened in shock. "And you survived." Sarah chuckled. "It's one of our skills." For a long moment, the lab was silent, except for the faint hum of the machines. Zarkil simply stared at the human in front of him, his mind replaying every biological model he had ever studied. "Your species," he said at last, "is a walking statistical nightmare." "Thank you," Sarah said with a smirk. "I was not complimenting you." Zarkil turned back to his screens, bringing up Earth's history. Wars, migrations, technological leaps, all while dealing with constant reproductive capability. It was madness. "How," he asked at last, "do you manage population control? Or do you simply ignore the problem until chaos begins?" Sarah grinned wider. "That's a long story. But we've got things like birth control, social customs, laws. And sometimes we still ignore the problem until chaos begins." Q muttered something in his own language. Probably not flattering. The interview should have ended there, but Zarkil's curiosity wouldn't let go. "And your males? They are always capable of reproduction." "Yep." He leaned back, his frills slowly rising again in disbelief. "Do you have any idea what this means for evolutionary strategy?" for interspecies relations. For Sarah interrupted with a laugh. You're really freaking out about this, aren't you? I am not freaking out, Zarkiel said stiffly, even though his tail was lashing in agitation. I am reassessing the known laws of biology. Sarah stood to leave, but paused at the door. If you think that's strange, you should hear about our eating habits. The door slid shut behind her, leaving Zarkiel staring at the empty room. He turned back to his console, his mind racing. He began pulling up every bit of data on human fertility patterns from the Galactic Medical Archives. Every result was the same. Humans were fertile all year. No cycle, no season, no rest. He whispered to himself, if this is true, the council must hear it. But even as he said it, a darker thought crossed his mind. If the rest of the galaxy learned about this, humans would be seen in an entirely different way. Asterisk. The first investigation, the biology lab of the Varlans. I had seen many strange experiments, but never anything like this. Dr. Zarkiel sat hunched over his main console. The golden glow from his eyes reflected in the rows of holographic charts hanging in the air. Dozens of human medical records hovered around him in perfect three-dimensional clarity. Like each graph, each DNA scan, and each fertility report repeated the same result. Constant reproductive capability. It made no sense for more. His entire career, Zarkiel had believed the fundamental rule of higher-order species. Reproduction was seasonal. It was controlled by environmental cues, light cycles, temperature shifts, planetary resources. Fertility was a survival mechanism, perfectly timed to match a species' best chance for survival. But humans, apparently, just ignored that rule. Zarkiel's long-scaled fingers tapped the console faster. He cross-checked multiple sources, human medical data from Earth, colony health logs, long-term reproductive studies from interspecies research programs. Every single source agreed. Human males could produce viable reproductive cells all year. Human females could conceive during any month. His frilled crest slowly rose higher and higher in alarm. Madness, he whispered. Pure biological madness. To confirm it, wasn't some elaborate prank by the human crew? Zarkiel accessed archived footage of pre-contact human history. He scrolled through centuries of population charts. Wars populations still rose. Famine. Birth rates dipped slightly, but never stopped. Ice ages, pandemics, economic collapses. Nothing truly stopped human reproduction. It was as if their biology had decided, if we can, we will, he muttered. To himself, no predator species would ever risk this much energy. Unless. The door slid open with a hiss, and Ensign Ralvek, his young assistant, stepped in. Ralvek's crest twitched in confusion as he looked at the holograms filling the room. Doctor, are you running population models again? Zarkiel? Didn't look up. I am rewriting them. From the ground up. Ralvek tilted his head. Is this about the human you interviewed yesterday? Yes, Zarkiel said flatly. Sarah Blake told me something I assumed was a misunderstanding. Now I have evidence. Overwhelming evidence. Ralvek walked closer, eyes scanning the data. They don't have a mating season. Zarkiel leaned back, rubbing the bridge of his nose ridge. No, none. They are always fertile, always ready, always unpredictable. Ralvek's eyes widened. That's horrifying. Zarkiel nodded solemnly. It's worse than that. It's efficient in the most inefficient way possible. He turned to a large holographic model of a human figure. A timeline floated beside it, showing every month of the year highlighted in green. This, Zarkiel said, pointing with one claw, means that their males and females can pair at any time. No waiting for the right season. No environmental restrictions. No natural safeguard against overpopulation. Ralvek frowned. But doctor, how does their society manage this without collapsing? That, Zarkil said, tapping a control is what I am trying to understand. He pulled up another series of historical videos, moments from human culture. In one, humans were celebrating a wedding in the snow. In another, a family was welcoming a newborn under the blazing summer sun. In yet another, soldiers in a muddy trench were writing letters home to their children. Winter, summer, famine, war. Zarkil shook his head. They reproduce regardless of condition. This is not adaptation. This is compulsion. Ralvek glanced at him nervously. Should we tell the council? Zarkil paused. Yes, but only after I confirm beyond doubt. If the council learns of this prematurely, they will see humans as a threat, or worse, as a resource. Ralvek's crest lowered. You mean breeding stock? Zarkil's frill flattened grimly. I mean exactly that. Determined to gather more evidence, Zarkil tapped into the ship's crew logs. He began scheduling voluntary interviews. With every human aboard, he disguised them as routine health checkups. But his real questions were very different. Have you ever thought about your species' reproduction habits? Does your family have children in different months? How often do humans? You know? Some humans laughed. Others seemed confused. A few answered seriously, explaining human birth control, social customs, and family planning. Each answer only confirmed his findings and made them sound stranger. By the end of the day, Zarkil's data wall was full. He stood there, arms folded, staring at the impossible truth. Humans weren't just breaking the rules of biology. They had burned the rulebook. They can breed in the cold, he muttered. They can breed in the heat. They can breed in war. They can breed in peace. They can. Ralvek interrupted. Doctor, please stop listing. Zarkil ignored him, pacing across the lab. If the galaxy learns this, it will change everything. Trade policies, military alliances, even mating treaties. Mating treaties. Ralvek asked, horrified. Zarkil turned to him with a completely serious expression. Do you have any idea how many desperate species would pay for such a trait? He sat back at his desk and began typing his initial report, encrypted, marked, for the highest level of clearance. Subject, human reproduction. Continuous fertility across calendar year. Status, confirmed through multiple independent sources. Risk assessment. Severe potential exploitation if knowledge becomes public. But before he could send it, a warning flashed across his console. Alert, unauthorized data access detected in human biology files. Zarkil froze. Someone else on the ship had already found his research. The crew interviews the next morning on the Varlans, I felt different. Dr. Zarkil noticed it the moment he stepped into the mess hall. The alien crew members weren't talking in their usual calm voices. Instead, conversations were fast, hushed, and followed by sideways glances at the human crew. When Sarah Blake, the human engineer from yesterday's interview, walked in to grab breakfast, 3 alien navigators suddenly stopped eating. Their eyes widened, their crests rising. One whispered something that made the others cover their mouths in shock. Zarkil's frill flattened in frustration. It's already spreading, he thought. He approached Sarah, lowering his voice. Did you tell anyone what we discussed? She took a bite of toast, then shrugged. I told Tyler. Zarkil's eyes narrowed. Who is Tyler? The Chief's comms officer. And then he told Amanda, the pilot. And then Amanda told. Well, probably half the humans on board. Zarkil rubbed the bridge of his nose ridge. Do you realize what you've done? Sarah grinned. Relax, doctor. It's just biology. To you, Zarkil hissed. To others, this is alarming. Alarming was an understatement. By midday, Zarkil caught a pair of young alien technicians in the engineering bay, peeking around a corner to watch human crew members. One of them whispered, "I heard they can make offspring in any month, even in dangerous conditions." The other whispered back, "That explains their population. No rest. Ever." When Zarkiel confronted them, both pretended to be studying a ventilation duct. Realizing the rumor had gotten out of control, Zarkiel decided to handle it directly. He began scheduling official crew interviews under the guise of routine cross-species health surveys. In truth, he wanted to confirm the facts himself and, more importantly, stop the wild stories from spiraling out of control. The first interview, the overly honest Paluda Amanda, the human pilot, arrived first. She sat in the exam chair, swinging her legs like she was waiting for a dentist appointment. So, Zarkiel began carefully. "You are aware of the rumor regarding human fertility patterns?" Amanda grinned. "Oh yeah. Everyone's talking about it. Some of the aliens are afraid to sit next to us now." Zarkiel winced. "Yes? Well, I would like you to confirm the truth without exaggeration." Amanda leaned forward. "It's true. Year-round, no seasonal breaks." Zarkiel sighed. "And you see nothing unusual about this?" "Course it's unusual," Amanda said cheerfully. "That's why it's fun to watch them react." The second interview. The comedian next came Tyler, the comms officer. He sat down with a completely serious face, which lasted exactly 5 seconds. Then he started laughing. "Doctor, you should have seen the face of that Varnock security guy when I told him humans can have kids even in zero gravity." Zarkiel's frills shot up. Zero gravity reproduction is not part of the official record. Tyler grinned. "It is now." The third interview, the historian later, Dr. Cato, the human ship's historian, arrived. Unlike the others, he answered Zarkiel's questions calmly and with detail. "Yes, humans are fertile year-round. It's one of the reasons we adapted so quickly to changing environments." Zarkiel leaned forward. "How far back does this trait go?" "Far," Cato replied. "Our ancestors in the Ice Ages had children during freezing winters and blazing summers. We survived because there was never a wait period." Zarkiel tapped his console. "So it is not just chaos. It is strategy." Cato smiled. "Both. The problem gets worse by the end of the day." Zarkiel had interviewed every human on board, and the results were worse than he feared. Not only was the rumor confirmed, but the alien crew had begun to embellish it. Now, stories were spreading that humans could produce offspring in hostile climates during illness. Even during space combat. One alien cook swore he heard that human couples had once conceived a child during an earthquake. Another claimed humans could breed underwater without equipment. Zarkiel wanted to scream. Where are they even getting this from? The unwanted meeting that evening, Zarkiel was summoned to the captain's ready room. The alien captain, a tall, imposing figure with silver markings on his armor, sat behind the desk. "Doctor," the captain began, "half my crew is now uncomfortable around the humans. The other half is strangely curious. This is disrupting discipline." Crest drooped. "It was supposed to be a controlled study. I did not anticipate this." "You will fix it," the captain said firmly, as Zarkiel left the captain's office. He passed 2 alien guards whispering. One of them glanced at Mark, the human security officer, walking by, and muttered, "That one looks like he could father an entire squad in a week." Zarkiel groaned, the decision back in his lab. He paced. "If I don't control this story, it will become a myth. And myths spread faster than facts." He tapped his console, opening a secure channel to the Interstellar Science Council. "This is Dr. Zarkiel aboard the Varlans. He said. "We have a developing situation. It concerns human reproduction. And it is urgent." Somewhere deep inside, he knew. It was already too late to keep this contained. The galaxy was about to learn humans had no mating season, and he had no idea what chaos that would cause. Alien debate. When Dr. Zarkil woke the next morning, his console was flashing with urgent alerts. He rubbed his eyes, tapped the control, and the screen filled with headlines. Not scientific journals, but news feeds. Dozens of alien media networks had picked up a single story, each with their own dramatic twist. Humans have no mating season, biology experts stunned. Year-round reproduction. Is humanity the galaxy's most dangerous species? Humans, the fertility machines. Some channels even use stock footage of humans doing random activities running, laughing, eating, with captions like, "Are they planning their next offspring?" Zarkil's frill flattened. "Oh no, this is worse than I feared." The council summons before he could finish his morning nutrient drink. His coms chimed with an incoming holo call from the Interstellar Science Council. The shimmering forms of 12 alien scientists appeared in a circle around him, each from a different species, long-limbed, multi-eyed, scaled, furred. All were staring at him like he had just announced the stars were fake. The council chair, a tall insectoid named Crix Voller, clicked his mandibles. "Dr. Zarkil, you will explain this. Human discovery in detail." At once, Zarkil took a breath. "The data is accurate. Humans are fertile all year. There is no defined mating season. This is not speculation." "I have verified it through an aquatic member of the council," interrupted, her voice bubbling through the translator. "That is not possible. No high-order species waste that much reproductive energy. Their survival rate should be 0. "Have survived and expanded," Zarkil replied. "In fact, their current population on their homeworld exceeds 8 billion. The chamber erupted in overlapping voices. One furry, bear-like counselor growled, "If they can breed without limit, they are a threat to every colony world." A crystalline species representative chimed in, their voice ringing like glass. "Or a valuable genetic resource. Imagine transferring this trait to species with declining populations." Another muttered darkly, "Or weaponizing it." Crest twitched in frustration. "You are missing the point. Humans do not use this ability recklessly. They have social systems, cultural controls, technologies to manage reproduction." The insectoid chair cut him off. "Doctor, you speak as if you admire this trait." Zarkil blinked. "I admire their adaptability. Nothing more." A small, bird-like counselor fluffed its feathers in disbelief. "Adaptability. It sounds like chaos disguised as biology." The public debate. By midday, the news had reached every corner of the core systems. It wasn't just scientists talking now. Politicians, traders, and ordinary civilians were all weighing in on the alien equivalent of talk shows. Panelists argued furiously. Panelist 1: reptilian. "It is unnatural. They should be regulated before their numbers overwhelm us." Panelist 2: insectoid. "They have been in space for centuries and have not overwhelmed anyone." Panelist 3: amphibian. "Yet, give them time." On social media feeds, alien users posted memes, a human face with the caption, "Always ready." A group of humans standing in line, captioned, "This could be a family by next week." The political angle wasn't long before the debate reached the Galactic Assembly, the political body that decided interspecies law. One faction demanded new regulations on human settlement rights. Another suggested restricting human migration between worlds until their biological threat could be assessed. In contrast, representatives from struggling species saw humans as the perfect partners for population recovery agreements, essentially voluntary crossbreeding treaties. When Zarkil heard that phrase, he nearly choked on his nutrient drink. The unexpected broadcast later that evening. Zarkil was reviewing yet another council request when the flagship's common room erupted in laughter. He Followed the noise to find several human and alien crew members gathered around the holoscreen, watching a comedy news segment from the Zelari network. On screen, an alien comedian was pretending to interview a human actor. Comedian: "So, if you have no mating season, when do you rest?" Actor: "Rest. What's that?" The room howled with laughter. Even some of Vera's most serious security staff were grinning. Zarkiel stood in the doorway, torn between outrage and disbelief. What had started as a scientific fact had now turned into interstellar entertainment. He turned away, muttering to himself, "This is becoming uncontrollable. I must clarify the record before the galaxy thinks humans are some sort of universal breeders." But deep down, he suspected the galaxy had already made up its mind, and no amount of clarification would stop the rumors now. The cultural clash the next morning. Dr. Zarkiel found an encrypted message waiting on his console. From anonymous subject, proposal for human crew members message. "We represent a coalition of species facing population decline. We request a biological partnership with your human crew. In exchange, we will offer rare resources, technology, and political favor." Zarkiel read it 3 times, his crest twitching in disbelief. There, making offers already. Had barely finished muttering when another message came in. This time from a wealthy planetary trade guild. "If the humans aboard your vessel are available for cultural exchange programs, we can pay in full immediately." Cultural exchange programs was obviously a polite code. Awkward invitations by midday. The humans on the Varlin's Eye were receiving invitations directly. Sarah Blake, the engineer, marched into Zarkiel's lab holding a glowing datapad. "Doctor, I just got a message from someone on the planet Gravis for offering me a house and farmland. If I agree to help their community grow, what does that mean?" Zarkiel looked uncomfortable. "Exactly what you think it means." Sarah blinked. "Oh." Key Tyler, the comms officer, burst in next. "Hey Doc, I've got an offer from a royal family on Caravix Prime. They said they'd make me a prince if I contribute to the royal bloodline. Should I say yes?" "Absolutely." "Not Zarkiel," snapped Tyler grinned. "You're no fun." The ship's rumor storm didn't stop there. The alien crew members, now fully aware of the humans' year-round fertility, had begun acting differently. Some kept a cautious distance, as if proximity alone might lead to pregnancy. Others became strangely friendly, bringing humans extra food, offering to carry equipment for them, and finding excuses to sit beside them at meals. One particularly curious alien guard asked Mark, the human security officer, "Is it true you can make offspring in less than a year?" Mark, deadpan, replied, "Less, if we hurry." The alien guard fainted. The councils helped the Interstellar Science Council, realizing the political storm brewing, issued a public statement. "We advise all species to approach this human biological trait with caution, respect, and scientific curiosity." Unfortunately, the moment they said scientific curiosity, dozens of research stations sent requests to borrow human volunteers for controlled studies. Zarkiel refused every single one. "Over my dead body," he muttered. Cultural mix-up's strangest incident came during a diplomatic dinner with a visiting alien merchant guild. Partway through the meal, the guild leader stood, raised his glass, and announced, "To the humans aboard this ship, may your seed spread." Across the stars, the human crew choked on their drinks. Tyler nearly fell off his chair laughing. Sarah muttered, "Is it too late to hide in the engine room?" After the dinner, Zarkiel cornered the guild leader in private. That was entirely inappropriate. The guild leader tilted his head. "Why? On my world, that is the highest blessing." "It is not on mine," Zarkiel growled. Human reactions, some humans found the whole thing hilarious. Amanda The pilot started keeping a proposal counter on the mess hall wall. By the end of the week, it had reached 30-3. Others, like Dr. Cato the historian, were more concerned. "This is getting out of hand, Doctor. If other ships think we're available, it could cause diplomatic incidents." Zarkiel agreed. But the truth was, the situation had already spiraled out of his control. The breaking point, the final straw, came when Zarkiel found 2 alien crew members in his lab, running DNA compatibility simulations without permission. He stormed in, frill flaring. "Out, now." "But doctor," one protested, "we only wanted to know if humans could." "I know what you wanted to know. Get out before I test my own combat reflexes." They left quickly. A new threat that evening, Zarkiel sat alone, reviewing the week's chaos. He realized something unsettling. Every interaction, every offer, every misunderstanding was increasing human reputation in the galaxy. Not for their technology, not for their diplomacy, for their fertility. And in a galaxy full of species with strict, limited mating seasons. That made humans not just curious, it made them valuable, and valuable things. Zarkiel knew were often targeted. Cliffhanger for Part 6. Zarkiel receives a covert transmission warning that a powerful alien syndicate is en route to intercept the Varlin's Eye, not to fight, but to secure the humans for themselves. Asterisk, the final testa. Warning came in the dead of night cycle. Zarkiel was in his quarters, trying to meditate the day's chaos away, when his console lit up with a Priority 1 alert. He tapped it open, and a grainy hologram of a hooded alien appeared. "Dr. Zarkiel, a word of caution. The Vacor Syndicate knows about your humans. They believe year-round fertility is the key to reviving their dying clans. They are on their way to take them. You must act." The message ended before Zarkiel could respond. His frill flattened. Of course, it wasn't enough that the whole galaxy was gossiping. Now the criminal underworld wanted in. The syndicate approaches by. Morning long-range sensors confirmed it. 3 Vacor ships were closing in. Their vessels were fast, angular, and painted in black and red patterns that screamed pirate diplomacy. Captain Rinner, the tall silver-marked leader of the Varlin's Eye, called an emergency meeting in the strategy room. "We can outrun them," Rinner said, "pacing, but they will chase us until we're trapped." Zarkiel folded his arms. "They don't want the ship. They want the humans. The humans present, Sarah, Tyler, Amanda, Mark, and Dr. Cato, exchanged uneasy looks. Tyler tried to lighten the mood. "Well, at least we're popular." No one laughed. The crazy ID Circle's mind was racing. How do you make pirates lose interest in valuable cargo? You make the cargo seem worthless, or impossible to get. He turned to the humans. "I need you all to listen carefully. We are going to lie." Amanda grinned. "Now I'm interested." Zarkiel continued. "We will convince the syndicate that humans do have a mating season, and it has just ended. If they believe they have missed their opportunity, they will move on." Sarah frowned. "And if they don't believe us, then..." Zarkiel said grimly, "We improvise." Setting the stage, the crew worked quickly. The ship's environmental systems were adjusted to make the temperature colder, the lights dimmer, and the air slightly more humid. Zarkiel's idea of simulating an off-season. Biology, environment. Medical scanners were reprogrammed to display fake hormonal readings for every human aboard, all showing inactive reproductive status. Even the ship's intercom played subtle. Background sounds, a low hum mixed with an artificial hibernation. Frequency supposedly used by many seasonal breeders in the galaxy. Tyler, naturally, was in charge of the theatrical part. He convinced the humans to act sluggish, wear extra layers of clothing, and walk more slowly as if their bodies were in rest mode. Amanda complained. "I look like I'm freezing to death." That's the point, Tyler replied. The syndicate arrives when the Vacor ships finally docked. Their leader, a towering reptilian with jagged horns, strode into the docking bay with 6 armed guards. "I am Kravix of the Vacor Syndicate," he declared. "We have come for the humans." Captain Renner stepped forward calmly. "You are too late. Their breeding season is over. They will not be fertile for another 8 cycles." Kravix narrowed his eyes. Lai Zarkiel stepped forward, holding a scanner. "See for yourself." He handed over the device, which displayed the fake hormonal charts. Kravix studied the readings, grunted, and looked past Renner to where the human stood, shivering under blankets. Tyler gave a weak wave. "Hi, we're sleepy. The negotiation wasn't convinced yet. Even if it is true, we can wait 8 cycles. We will keep them until then." Zarkiel's frill twitched. That would be unwise. Humans in rest phase become extremely aggressive if forced to breed out of season. It can be fatal to the partner. Mark, the human security officer, crossed his arms and gave Kravix a long, cold stare. It helped sell the story. Kravix's eyes flicked between the fake data, the hibernating humans, and Mark's intimidating posture. His tail gave a nervous twitch. The bluff works. "Almost very well," Kravix said at last. "We have no use for unstable breeders." But he leaned closer to Zarkiel. "When the season begins again, we will return." The syndicate left. As quickly as they had come, their ships vanishing into the darkness. The crew breathed a collective sigh of relief, except Zarkiel. The aftermath back in the lab. Zarkiel stared at the fake hormonal charts still glowing on his console. The bluff had worked, for now, but the message from Kravix replayed in his head. "We will return." Tyler leaned in from behind. "So, when exactly does our fake season start?" Zarkiel sighed. "Hopefully, never." But deep inside, he knew this. Season Lie might only buy them time. The syndicate, and maybe others, would be back. And next time, they might not be so easy to fool. The conclusion, the Varlans. I had barely resumed its course when the captain's console beeped with an assembly priority transmission. Captain Renner tapped the control, and the crest of the Galactic Assembly filled the holodisplay, followed by the stern face of Assembly Speaker Vorat Mail, a tall, deep green amphibian whose voice always sounded like a low drum beat. "Crew of the Varlan's Eye," Mail began. "Your ship has been selected for a matter of galactic importance. Due to recent revelations about human biology, the Assembly has voted to create the Reproductive Census Act. All human citizens within Assembly space are to be registered, examined, and documented for the Central Archives." The humans on the bridge exchanged uneasy glances. Tyler muttered under his breath, "That sounds invasive." Mail continued, "Your vessel is the nearest mixed-species ship with an experienced xenobiologist. You will deliver the first batch of registered humans to the central station of Virax's Prime within 5 cycles." The transmission ended. The rebellion in the mess hall minutes later. The human crew gathered in the mess hall with Zarkiel. None looked happy. "This is insane," Sarah said, crossing her arms. "They want to put us in a database, like livestock." Amanda leaned forward. "And then what? Breeding permits? Mating licenses? Random inspections?" Dr. Cato sighed. "Historically, registries like this are never just for record keeping. They're for control." Tyler smirked. "We could always just fake the registry." Zarkiel raised a brow ridge. "You think the Assembly wouldn't notice?" Tyler shrugged. "We fooled pirates, didn't we?" The captain's dilemmaing knee. Captain's quarters. Renner was pacing while Zarkiel argued his case. "If we comply," Zarkiel said, "we hand them the humans and lose control of the situation forever. If we refuse, they'll send an enforcement fleet." Renner stopped pacing. "Then we must appear to comply. While not complying, Zarkiel tilted his head. Go on. Fake transfer plan. The plan was daring and very risky. Stage the transfer. The Varlin's Eye would appear to be delivering the humans to Viraxis Prime, complete with an official escort. Swap the cargo. Mid-route, the humans would be swapped with lifelike holovassers stored in containment pods. Hide the real crew. The real humans would be concealed in sealed maintenance compartments shielded from scanners. If it worked, the assembly would think they'd received their first batch of humans, and the real ones would remain free. The journey to Viraxis Prime, the trip, began smoothly. 2 assembly frigates escorted the Varlin's Eye, their crews unaware of the deception. The humans played their part. Walking around the ship in plain sight of the escorts before boarding the containment pods, Zarkiel personally checked every holovatar, ensuring they mimicked real biological readings. Even the breathing patterns and heartbeat scans were perfect. Sarah grinned as she climbed into the hidden compartment. This is either going to be genius or get us all arrested. Both are possible, Zarkiel replied. The inspection upon arrival at Viraxis Prime. Assembly officers boarded the Varlin's Eye to inspect the human specimens. The lead inspector, a tall insectoid, scanned the pods and nodded in approval. Excellent. The council will be pleased. One of the officers paused by Tyler's pod and frowned. This one is smiling too much. Zarkiel quickly interjected. Humans in rest phase often exhibit random facial expressions. The officer accepted the explanation and moved on. The escape once the inspection was complete. The pods were transferred to the assembly station. As soon as the cargo bay doors sealed, the Varlin's Eye slipped away under the pretense of returning to its patrol route. An hour later, Zarkiel received the coded message from the pod's holocores. Avatars delivered. No breach detected. The real humans emerged from hiding, stretching and laughing. Tyler grinned. So, we're officially in the database now, without actually being in the database. That's a win. The uncomfortable truth later, alone in his lab, Zarkiel reviewed the week's events. They had escaped the pirates, tricked the syndicate, and fooled the assembly for now. But he also knew the galaxy's interest in human reproduction wasn't going to fade. Every world with a declining population, every politician seeking leverage, every crime syndicate chasing profit. They would all keep watching, and the humans aboard his ship were now both the most protected and the most dangerous crew members. In the sector, closing scene, the mess hall was loud with laughter as the humans celebrated their victory. Sarah raised a glass. To the longest mating season in the galaxy. Everyone laughed except Zarkiel, who muttered into his drink. You have no idea how long it's going to be. Asterisk, the epilogue, the crew of the Varlin's, I thought the storm had passed. They had outwitted the pirates, fooled the Vacor syndicate, and even tricked the Galactic Assembly into thinking they'd handed over the humans for the new reproductive census. The ship was cruising quietly through a calm star lane, and for the first time in weeks, the humans were laughing without looking over their shoulders. Zarkiel almost allowed himself to relax. Almost. The message that broke the peace, T came without. Warning, a blinking red light on his private console. Marked unknown origin. When he opened it, a smooth, almost human-sounding voice filled the room. Dr. Zarkiel. Clever work, hiding them in plain sight. Most wouldn't dare deceive the assembly, let alone the syndicate. But we've been watching. We know exactly where the humans are headed, and we will be ready to meet you. The message ended with a set of star coordinates. Zarkiel stared at them. His frills slowly rose. Those coordinates were directly in their path. The quiet briefing that night, Zarkiel called the humans into the lab. The hum of the ship's engines was the only sound as the door slid shut behind them. Something is waiting for us, he said, showing them the coordinates. They know we're coming. They know you're here, and they want to meet. Sarah leaned forward. Who's they? Zarkil hesitated. That's the problem. I don't know. And the fact they could track us this easily means they're either far more advanced than the assembly, or far more dangerous. Theories and suspicions Amanda suggested they could be another research group wanting to study humans. Mark thought it was a trap, plain and simple. Tyler grinned. Or maybe it's a dating service for aliens who like humans. Everyone groaned. Dr. Cato, however, was thoughtful. What if they're not here to take us, but to offer something? A partnership? An alliance? Zarkil shook his head. My experience, when someone goes to this much trouble to find you, they want something you'd rather not give. Approaching the unknown 2 days later, the coordinates drew closer. Long-range sensors picked up a single massive vessel, unlike any ship in the assembly database. It was shaped like a crescent moon, glowing faintly with blue light. No visible weapons, no escort ships, but its size alone made the Varlans. I look like a SHUTT-LECRAFT, Captain Renner slowed their approach. They're not locking weapons, but they're scanning us, Sarah muttered. Of course they are. The Invitation A transmission came through. No visual, just that same smooth voice from before. Welcome, crew of the Varlan's Eye. We represent the coalition of endangered peoples. We know of humanity's gift. We do not seek to take it. We seek to trade. Zarkil's eyes narrowed. Trade what, exactly? The voice chuckled. Safe passage, political protection, and information that could keep your humans free from the assembly census forever. Tyler raised an eyebrow. And what do we give in return? The voice paused. Access. When the time comes, we will call for your aid. And you will. Answer. The decision the crew debated for hours in the war room. If they refused, the coalition might turn them over to the assembly, or worse. If they agreed, they would owe an unknown debt to an unknown power. Zarkil finally spoke. We are already in the center of a storm. Sometimes the best way to survive is to make the storm work for you. The humans exchanged glances, then nodded. The deal as Zarkil sent the reply. We accept your terms. The Crescent ship sent a burst of encrypted data, star charts, assembly patrol schedules, and something else. A classified file, labeled Project Heritage. Before Zarkil could open it, the coalition ship vanished into faster-than-light space, leaving no trace. The final scene in the quiet of his lab, Zarkil opened the file. His frill rose in shock. It contained records of other species once thought extinct. And at the top of the list was a human subspecies, marked status. Hidden, his voice was barely a whisper. They've known about humans for far longer than we thought. In the mess hall, the humans were celebrating their victory, unaware that the galaxy's interest in them had just reached a whole new level. Teaser for next adventure. A final note flashed on Zarkil's screen. Dr. Zarkil. Your humans are rare, but they are not the only ones.